In January 2024, an international expedition in the Gobi Desert encountered something unexplained. In the pre-dawn twilight, when the temperature dropped to minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, all electronic devices suddenly stopped working. On the pristine sand, which still held the coolness of the night, a dark trail of something huge began to form. The Geiger counters, the only instruments that continued to work, went into a hysterical clicking, showing powerful radiation levels of 0.013 rem per hour, which is 250 times higher than the allowed norm. The diameter of the trail was almost 13 feet, with microscopic melted edges, as if the surface had been exposed to an instant, extremely high temperature. The expedition's scientific leader, Dr. Marina Sokolova, recorded, "This is not just a trail, it is evidence of the presence of something that completely contradicts our ideas about biological systems." What the scientists discovered in the following months forever changed the understanding of life on our planet and made them doubt the boundaries between legends and reality. In the scorching Gobi Desert, where people freeze to death in winter and the sand melts from 122 degrees Fahrenheit heat in summer, lies one of the most eerie mysteries of cryptozoology. The local nomads, hardy people accustomed to the dangers of desert life, call it Olgoi Korkoi, the worm of death. At the mere mention of this name, their faces turn to stone and their eyes fill with a primitive terror. In their whispers, a respectful fear can be heard when they say this name, which translates as worm that looks like a thick intestine filled with blood. The scientific search for this mysterious creature began in 1926 when the famous American traveler and president of the Museum of Natural History, Roy Chapman Andrews, who later became the prototype for the legendary Indiana Jones, received a mysterious message from the Prime Minister of Mongolia, Sin Mai Nadam Din Bazar. In the half-light of his office, the head of government, pale and anxious, admitted that although he had never seen the creature himself, he knew of a man who met it face-to-face and miraculously survived. Andrews, although he considered the story to be fantastic, could not ignore the official request. Armed with long steel tongs for collecting specimens and donning dark glasses to protect himself from the creature's supposed poisonous gaze, he set out on the expedition. In his heart a skeptic, the paleontologist still felt an inexplicable excitement. After all, the Gobi Desert kept many secrets, and who knew what was hidden in its endless sands? Traveling across the heated dunes, where mirages played with the minds of travelers, turning the sandy waves into twisting silhouettes of giant worms, Andrews' team questioned every passing nomad. Their stories, spoken in low voices by nighttime campfires, were remarkably similar. "My friend's friend saw it with his own eyes," the Mongols whispered, cautiously glancing at the dark dunes, as if the very mention of the creature could summon it from the depths. The desert did not rush to reveal its secrets. Instead of the tracks of the mysterious worm, the expedition found fossilized dinosaur eggs and ancient skeletons, which later became sensational discoveries. These findings only increased the eerie feeling that something else, something living and deadly dangerous, might have survived in these ancient sands. One evening at sunset, when the sun stained the sands a blood-red color, one of Andrews' guides froze, pointing his trembling hand into the distance. In the approaching twilight, the sand began to move in strange waves. The entire team, holding their breath, watched this unexplained phenomenon. It turned out to be only a small storm, but it was at that moment that the sands began to sing. A deep, vibrating sound, similar to the groan of a giant creature, echoed across the desert, making the blood in their veins turn cold. 6 years later, in 1932, Andrews wrote in his book, New Conquest of Central Asia, that he considered Olgoi Korkoi a myth. However, he was haunted by one strange detail. All the Mongols, thousands of miles apart, described the worm in the same way, as if they had indeed seen it with their own eyes. His diaries retained a mysterious note about a night when all the expedition's compasses went crazy at the same time, and a low hum, similar to the beating of a huge heart, could be heard in the sands. In the early 1940s, Soviet writer and paleontologist Ivan Yefremov, fascinated by the legends of the desert monster, wrote a short story called Olgoi Korkoi. It was the first time the creature's ability to kill with an electric discharge was described. In 1946 and 1949, Yefremov himself went into the desert. In his travel diary, there are records of unexplained phenomena. Devices malfunctioned, the air smelled of ozone, and above the dunes, strange lights sometimes flashed. During one especially dark night, Yefremov's expedition encountered something unexplainable. Their camp was shrouded in a thick fog, a phenomenon impossible in the desert. All the electronic devices began showing chaotic readings, and the compass needles spun wildly. The local guides, terrified, hid in their tents, insisting that they could hear the approach of Olgoy Korkoy. When the fog cleared, perfectly round bare patches remained on the sand, as if burned by acid. In 1956, reptile specialists Charles Baggart and Rafael Martin del Campo tried to explain the worm phenomenon scientifically. But the more they studied the evidence, the more convinced they became. Something unusual really does live in the sands of the Gobi. Their initially joking scientific description of the creature unexpectedly sparked serious interest in the scientific community. The year 1977 brought a sensational discovery. Zoologist Yuri Gorilov, working in the Badhaz Nature Reserve in Turkmenistan, caught a mysterious eastern snake. When he showed the snake to local residents, their faces turned pale. They recognized it as Olgoy Korkoy. In the light of the setting sun, the snake's reddish scales indeed reminded them of the legendary creature. But the most surprising event occurred at night. Around the snake, faint electric discharges began to appear, and the sand around its body glowed with a bluish light. In the grim 1980s, a group of geologists nearly lost their lives because of their curiosity. Having discovered strange grooves in the sand, they began digging. Suddenly, the sand started to sink, forming a funnel with perfectly smooth walls. From the depth came a low, vibrating sound that made their bones tremble. The geologists managed to jump away at the last moment. The funnel swallowed all their equipment in seconds. In the 1990s, Czech researcher Ivan Makrel brought a device called a tamper to the desert, an apparatus for creating vibrations. On nights when the temperature dropped to -4 degrees Fahrenheit, they would turn on the device. On one such night, seismographs erupted with activity. Something huge was moving under the sand, approaching the camp. The equipment showed an incredible sight. The object was the size of a railway car and moved as fast as a racing car. Later, Mackerel decided to take a desperate step, using explosives. The local elders pleaded with him not to disturb the sands in June and July, calling those months the time of the worm's anger. After one of the explosions, a column of sand shot up into the air, and when the dust settled, they saw a perfectly round funnel. Its edges melted as if by an incredible temperature. That night, a strange pulsating sound, similar to the beating of a giant heart, could be heard from the desert. In the new millennium, the search became more technological. Japanese thermal imagers recorded the movement of huge warm masses under the sand. British scientists posted notices offering a reward and heard a chilling story from an old cattle herder. According to him, he had not only seen the worm, he had caught it. But when the scientists demanded proof, the old man admitted that the creature had completely dissolved in the preserving solution, leaving behind only a strange, glowing sediment. In 2015, something happened that made the scientists shudder. Ground-penetrating radars showed an entire network of tunnels under the sand, with an unnaturally regular shape as if bored by a giant drill. In the tunnels, they found slime. Its analysis revealed the impossible, a mixture of snake venom with organic compounds unknown to science, capable of dissolving metal. The year 2018 brought a new mystery. A shepherd named Batbayar was driving his flock along an ancient caravan route when his sheep suddenly began to drop dead. The air filled with the smell of ozone, and the sand underfoot glowed strangely. The arriving scientists discovered an area with an abnormally high electric potential, but its source remained a mystery. By 2020, seismologists recorded something incredible, a 16.4-foot deep object moving at the speed of a sprinter. The sensors showed that the creature was carving tunnels, instantly melting the sand around it. In 2021, robotic snake drones transmitted the last images before they fell silent forever. A blurred silhouette of something huge and red, writhing in the darkness. The year 2022 brought rare rains and new mysteries. At temporary lakes, tracks resembling the footprints of a giant worm were found. But strangely, they stopped halfway up a sand dune. In 2023, geneticists isolated DNA from sand samples of an unknown creature. The analysis showed that it was as ancient as the dinosaurs and possessed a unique ability to produce bioelectricity of monstrous power. In February 2024, the scientists decided to carry out the most large-scale experiment. They created a complex system of emitters imitating the singing of the sands. An international group of researchers, including geologists, cryptozoologists, physicists, and biologists from 12 countries, spent over $7 million preparing for this unprecedented scientific study. On the night of the experiment, something occurred that defies explanation. First, seismographs recorded the movement of not one, but several large objects heading toward the camp from different directions. Night vision cameras transmitted eerie footage. The sand moved in waves like a living ocean. In the center of these waves, a red glow pulsed, slowly approaching the camp. Suddenly, all instruments failed, and the air filled with electric discharges. When the backup generators turned on, the scientists saw that the sand around the camp had turned into a glass-like crust, and on it were the tracks of something unimaginably huge. But the most incredible event happened at dawn. In the light of the rising sun, the researchers noticed something in the sands that resembled a giant shadow. It moved beneath the surface, leaving behind a melted trail. The expedition rushed after it in all-terrain vehicles. The trail led them to an ancient crater where they discovered fossils 70 million years old. The shape of the fossils left no doubt. It was a worm-like creature with an incredibly complex internal structure. By the end of 2024, the analysis of the data led the scientists to a shocking conclusion. Most encounters with Olgoi Khorkhoi took place above deposits of rare earth metals, where the Earth's electromagnetic field is naturally distorted. At such moments, ancient microorganisms in the sand came to life, possibly part of the mysterious nervous system of the desert, connecting its inhabitants into one intelligent organism. But the last discovery turned out to be the most alarming. At the bottom of one of the tunnels, fresh tracks were found, 3 parallel grooves filled with a strange glowing liquid. The liquid pulsed in time with some deep vibrations, as if it were part of a single giant organism hidden in the depths of the desert. Modern science still cannot provide a clear answer as to what hides in the sands of the Gobi. Perhaps it is a relic species that has survived millions of years of evolution, or maybe it is a complex ecosystem that unites ancient forms of life. One thing is certain: as long as the desert keeps its secrets, and somewhere in its depths, something continues to exist that challenges our understanding of life on Earth.